Commander Jake Morrison sat in the command chair of the Valiant, staring at the screen in front of him. The signal had come through 3 hours ago, and his team was still trying to decode it. The message was unlike anything Earth had ever received before. It pulsed with patterns that seemed mathematical, almost musical, but definitely not human. "Got something, sir," said Lieutenant Kate Walsh from her station. Her fingers danced across the holographic display. "It's a distress call. Multiple sources, all saying the same thing. They need help." Jake leaned forward. For 200 years, humanity had been searching for other life in the universe. They had built ships, sent probes, and listened to the stars. Nothing, not a whisper. Now finally someone was calling out and they were screaming. "Can you translate it?" Jake asked. Kate nodded slowly. "The computer is working on it. Whatever language this is, it's sophisticated. They're using mathematical constants as a base. Smart, real smart." The Valiant was Earth's most advanced exploration vessel, floating in high orbit above the moon. Its mission was simple: look for signs of intelligent life. Now that life had found them instead, the translation came through an hour later. The message was clear and desperate. A species called the Velaxi was facing extinction. An empire called. The Krathan had invaded their worlds, destroyed their colonies, and killed billions. The Velaxi were peaceful people. They had no weapons, no armies, no way to fight back. They were sending this message to anyone who could hear, begging for help. Jake read the message 3 times. His stomach twisted. Somewhere out there, people were dying, and they had reached out to Earth as their last hope. "Send this to command immediately," Jake ordered. "And prepare the ship. We might be going on a trip." 2 days later, something appeared in Earth's orbit that made every scientist drop their coffee. A ship materialized out of nowhere, just appeared like someone had turned on a light switch. It was beautiful and strange, made of materials that seemed to shift colors in the sunlight. The ship was huge, easily 3 times the size of any human vessel. The aliens requested permission to land. The United Earth Council agreed, and the ship descended to Geneva, Switzerland, landing in a prepared field outside the city. Millions watched on screens around the world as the ship's door opened. The being that emerged looked like a walking crystal sculpture. It stood on 4 legs, its body covered in geometric patterns that glowed with soft blue light. When it spoke, the sound came from everywhere and nowhere, translating instantly into every human language. "I am Shaltir, ambassador of the Galactic Coalition. I come seeking aid for the Velaxi people." The meeting that followed was historic. Shaltir explained that the galaxy was vast and full of life. 12 species had formed the coalition, a peaceful alliance dedicated to trade, science, and cooperation. For thousands of years, they had lived in relative peace. Then the Krathan Empire began expanding. They were warriors, conquerors who believed strength was the only law that mattered. "We have tried to stop them," Shaltir said, its crystalline body dimming with sadness. "But we are not fighters. The Velaxi are dying and we cannot save them. When we received your response to our distress call, we hoped that perhaps a new species might help." Captain Lisa Bennett, representing Earth's military, spoke up. "What makes you think we can help? We've never fought a space war. We barely left our own solar system." Shaltir turned its attention to her. "May I scan your world?" The council agreed. Shaltir's ship sent invisible waves across Earth, collecting data about the planet, its atmosphere, its life. When the scan finished, Shaltir stood very still for a long moment. "This is impossible," the ambassador finally said. "Your planet, it should not support intelligent life. The gravity is crushing, the oxygen levels are toxic. The weather patterns are violent beyond measure. The tectonic activity, the solar radiation, the predatory species. This world is classified as a Class 12 Deathworld in our database." Admiral Ryan Parker, head of Earth's Space Fleet, frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means," Shaltir said slowly, "that your world is one of the most hostile environments for life in the known galaxy. Most species could not survive a single day on your surface. The gravity alone would break their bones, yet you evolved here. You survived here. You conquered this world. The room fell silent. Humans looked at each other, confused. Earth was just Earth. It was home. It had always been home. They had never considered that it might be unusual. Shaltir continued. The Krathen come from a world with half your gravity and no predatory species. They have never known hunger, never known fear of the wild. They believe themselves the strongest warriors in the galaxy. The ambassador's light pulsed brighter. But they have never met a species from a death world. Lisa Bennett stepped forward. Are you saying you want us to fight them? I am saying. Shaltir replied, that if your species is willing, you might be the only hope the Valaxi have. But I must warn you, the Krathen are numerous and experienced in war. This would be dangerous. Lisa looked at Admiral Parker. The Admiral looked at the Council. The Council looked at each other. Then Lisa smiled, a fierce expression that made Shaltir take a step back. When do we leave? Lisa asked. 3 weeks later, Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Valiant again, but this time he was not alone. 5 more Earth ships floated nearby, including the flagship Endeavour, where Admiral Parker commanded the fleet. Each vessel carried soldiers, pilots, and crew members who had volunteered for this mission. They were about to travel farther than any human had ever gone. Shaltir's ship led the way, creating something the aliens called a jump point, space. Twisted, folded, and the human ships leaped forward, crossing hundreds of light years in seconds. Jake felt his stomach flip, but he kept his face calm. His crew looked to him for strength. They emerged near the Valaxi homeworld. The planet was beautiful, covered in purple oceans and golden continents, but surrounding it was a fleet of Krathen. Warships, dark and angular, firing weapons at the planet's surface. Sir, Kate called out from her station. I'm reading 17 Krathen vessels. They're bombarding the cities below. Admiral Parker's voice came through the comm system, steady and cold. All ships, battle stations. Valiant, Ranger, take the left flank. Vengeance, Guardian, right flank. Endeavour and Defender, center push. Let's show them what humans can do. The Krathen noticed the human ships immediately. Their fleet turned, weapons charging. Jake could see them on the screen, massive vessels bristling with guns. They're hailing us, Kate said. Put them through, Jake ordered. The screen filled with the image of a Krathen commander. The alien looked vaguely reptilian, with thick scales and yellow eyes. It hissed when it spoke. Unknown vessels, you are interfering with Krathen Empire business. Leave now or be destroyed. Admiral Parker responded before Jake could. This is Admiral Ryan Parker of the United Earth Fleet. We're here to help the Valaxi. You have one chance to withdraw peacefully. The Krathen commander laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. You dare threaten us? Your ships are small and weak. We will crush you and then finish destroying this pitiful world. The communication cut off. The Krathen ships moved forward, confident and aggressive. All ships, Admiral Parker said quietly. Engage, the battle began. The Krathen fired first, launching plasma bolts that crossed space in glowing arcs. The human ships scattered, moving with precision that the aliens had not expected. Jake gripped his armrests as the Valiant spun, rolled, and dove through the enemy fire. Return fire. Jake shouted. The Valiant's railgun spoke, sending magnetic accelerated projectiles at incredible speed. The first shot struck a Krathen cruiser, punching through its shields and tearing into its hull. The alien ship shuddered and began to drift. Around the battlefield, the other human ships were performing similar feats. They moved faster, turned sharper, and fought harder than anything the Krathen had encountered. The aliens had expected an easy victory. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to break. On the Endeavour's bridge, Admiral Parker watched the tactical display with satisfaction. His ships were outnumbered, but they were winning. The secret was simple. Humans had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. They had learned to endure pain, to push past fear, to never give up. The Krathen had evolved on a gentle world, and they had never learned those lessons. Sir, an officer reported, the Krathen flagship is trying to escape. Don't let it, Parker ordered. I want them to remember this day. The Valiant and 2 other ships pursued the fleeing flagship. Jake pushed his ship to maximum acceleration, feeling the G-forces press him into his seat. A normal human would black out from the pressure. Jake's crew had trained for this. They had grown up in Earth's heavy gravity. This was nothing, the Crothan. Flagship tried to jump away, but the Valiant's weapons disabled its engines. The alien ship went dark, drifting helplessly. "Sir," Kate said, her voice filled with awe, "the other Crothan ships are retreating, all of them." Jake looked at the display. She was right. The entire Crothan fleet was running, jumping away to safety. The battle was over, and humanity had won its first space war. Below them, on the surface of the Galaxy homeworld, millions of purple-skinned aliens looked up at the sky and wept with relief. Their saviors had. The Crothan Empire did not take defeat well. In their throne world, deep in a star system humans had never heard of, the Emperor received news of the battle with cold fury. His commanders stood before him, trembling. No one had defeated the Crothan military in 3 generations. Now, an unknown species had destroyed an entire fleet in less than an hour. "Find out everything about these humans," the Emperor hissed. "I want to know their weaknesses. Then prepare the second armada. We will teach these creatures their place." Meanwhile, back near the Galaxy homeworld, the human fleet was helping with rescue operations. Marine Sergeant Ben Carter stood on the planet's surface, directing his squad as they pulled survivors from collapsed buildings. The Galaxy were grateful but nervous around the humans. They had never seen anything quite like them. Ben was a big man, standing over 6 feet tall with muscles built from years of training on Earth. When he lifted a concrete beam that 3 Galaxy together could not move, the aliens watched in amazement. "You are very strong," one Galaxy civilian said in broken English, which the translation device helped smooth out, then shrugged. "This is nothing. Back home, I regularly lift twice this weight in the gym." The Galaxy stared at him. Their world had lighter gravity than Earth. What seemed normal to Ben was superhuman to them. Up in orbit, Admiral Parker was meeting with the Coalition Council via hologram. The 12 species appeared before him, each one unique and strange. Shaltir was there, along with beings that looked like floating jellyfish, mechanical constructs, and even a species that seemed to be made of living light. "We cannot thank you enough," one council member said. A being called Thress who resembled a 6-armed bear. "The Galaxy are safe because of your intervention. However, we must warn you. The Crothan will not let this insult stand. They will come back, and they will bring more ships." Parker nodded. "We expected that. How long do we have?" "Weeks, perhaps a month. They will need time to gather their forces." "Then we use that time to prepare," Parker said firmly. "We'll need to learn more about Crothan tactics, their weapons, their strategies." "Can you provide that information?" The council agreed. Over the following weeks, human engineers and scientists worked with coalition technology experts, learning everything they could about their new enemy. What they discovered was both encouraging and worrying. The Crothan Empire controlled 40 star systems. They had millions of soldiers and thousands of warships. Their technology was advanced, their tactics proven over centuries of conquest. By every logical measure, humanity should avoid a direct conflict, but the coalition also shared something else: information about Crothan physiology. The aliens came from a planet with 60% of Earth's gravity. Their bones were lighter, their muscles weaker. They had evolved as the apex predator on their world, but that world had been gentle compared to Earth. The Crothan had never known true hardship. "They're strong by galactic standards," Dr. Emma Rodriguez explained to Admiral Parker. Emma was Earth's lead xenobiologist, a brilliant scientist who had jumped at the chance to study alien life. "But by our standards, they're fragile?" "Their combat training focuses on weapons and tactics because they never developed the close-quarters fighting instincts we did. On Earth, we evolved alongside predators. We learned to fight or die." Parker absorbed this information. "What about their psychology?" "That's even more interesting," Emma continued. "The Crothan value strength and dominance, but they have a concept we don't: the acceptable casualty rate. In their culture, if a battle costs more than 30% casualties, it's considered a disaster. They retreat and regroup. 30%? Parker said slowly. In human history, we've had battles where armies fought until 90% casualties and still didn't surrender. Emma nodded grimly. Exactly. We come from a world that taught us persistence. The Krathen come from a world that taught them efficiency. That's going to be our advantage. The Krathen Second Armada arrived 4 weeks later. Commander Vexkor led this fleet personally, determined to avenge the previous defeat. He brought 50 warships, including 3 massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed any human vessel. His orders were clear: destroy the human fleet, finish conquering the Valaxi, and capture some humans alive for study. The human fleet had grown too. Earth had sent reinforcements, 3 more warships, and more importantly, a full battalion of Marines. Jake Morrison stood on the Valiant's bridge, watching the enemy fleet appear on sensors. That's a lot of ships, Kate Walsh said quietly. Yeah, Jake agreed. It is. All ships report status. One by one, the human captains checked in. They were ready. They were also outnumbered 5-1. Admiral Parker's voice came through the com. All personnel, this is the Admiral. I won't lie to you. We're facing tough odds. The enemy has more ships, more weapons, and more experience. But they don't have what we have. They didn't evolve on a world that tried to kill them every single day. They never learned that the only way to survive is to never give up. Today, we show them what humans are made of. Today, we show them why you don't mess with Deathworlders. The speech ended. The fleet waited. Then the Krathen attacked. This time, the battle was different. Vexkor had studied the recordings from the first engagement. He knew the humans were fast and aggressive. So he spread his fleet wide, trying to surround them and use superior numbers. It did not work the way he planned. The human ships did. Something the Krathen had never seen. They split into pairs and dove straight into the enemy formation. Instead of trying to avoid being surrounded, they embraced it. The Valiant and the Ranger flew through the center of the Krathen fleet, their weapons firing in all directions. This is insane, Vexkor shouted on his bridge. They're flying into a crossfire. But the humans pulled maneuvers that made the Krathen sensors glitch. Lieutenant Kate Walsh, piloting the Valiant, spun her ship through a barrel roll while accelerating at 8 Gs. The G-force would have crushed a Krathen pilot unconscious. Kate just gritted her teeth and kept flying. Missile lock, she called out. Firing. The Valiant's missiles streaked out, hitting a Krathen cruiser in the engines. The ship exploded in a ball of fire. On another front, the carrier ship Guardian deployed its fighters. Human pilots launched into space, flying small craft that were fast and deadly. Pilot Chris Murphy led his squadron straight at a Krathen dreadnought. Guardian Actual, this is Hawk Squadron, Chris called out. We're going to sting that big guy. Hawk Squadron, are you crazy? The Guardian's captain responded. That dreadnought has point defense guns that could swat you like flies. Chris laughed, a wild sound. Yeah, but we're really fast flies. Follow my lead, boys and girls? The 12 fighters dove toward the massive ship, weaving and spinning through the defensive fire. The Krathen gunners tried to track them, but the human pilots flew in patterns that seemed random but were actually carefully coordinated chaos. 2 fighters got hit and had to pull back. The rest reached the dreadnought's hull and launched their missiles at point-blank range. Explosions rippled across the massive ship's armor. The dreadnought didn't explode, but its weapons went offline. It drifted, helpless. Hawk Squadron, good kill, Admiral Parker said. Regroup and pick your next target. On the ground level of the battle, things got even more personal. The Krathen had sent boarding parties to capture the Earthship Defender. They cut through the hull and poured inside, expecting to overwhelm the crew with superior numbers. They met Sergeant Ben Carter instead. Ben and his Marine squad had been waiting for them. The Krathen warriors were big, covered in thick scales and armed with plasma rifles. They roared challenges as they charged down the corridor. Ben did not roar back. He just raised his rifle and fired. The first 3 Krathen dropped before they knew what hit them. The rest took cover and returned fire. Suppressing fire, Ben shouted. His squad obeyed, laying down such a heavy barrage that the Krathen could not advance. Then Ben did something that made his squad grin. He charged. A normal soldier would never charge directly at entrenched enemies. But Ben Carter was not a normal soldier. He was a human from Earth, and he had trained in gravity that would cripple these aliens. He moved fast, faster than the Krathen expected, and he hit them like a freight train. The first Krathen tried to block him with its rifle. Ben grabbed the weapon and ripped it from the alien's hands. The Krathen stared in shock. Its bones were breaking from the strain of Ben's grip. Ben did not give it time to react. He slammed the rifle into the alien's face, dropping it instantly. The other Krathen warriors watched their comrade fall and felt something they had rarely experienced: fear. They tried to fall back, but Ben's squad was already moving up, cutting off their retreat. "Surrender now," Ben said in a cold voice, "or we keep going." The Krathen dropped their weapons. They had expected glory in battle. Instead, they found themselves completely outmatched by creatures who should not exist. Back in space, the battle was turning. The Krathen fleet was breaking apart. Vexcor watched his screens in disbelief as ship after ship reported damage or destruction. The humans were relentless. They did not retreat when damaged. They did not break formation when outnumbered. They just kept fighting. "Commander," his second officer said nervously, "we've lost 18 ships. That's 36% casualties. Protocol demands we." News of humanity's second victory spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The Coalition Council called an emergency session, and this time they requested that Admiral Parker and his senior staff attend in person. The meeting was held on the Coalition capital world, a place called Harmony Station, floating in neutral space between several star systems. Jake Morrison went with the Admiral, along with Dr. Emma Rodriguez and Sergeant Ben Carter. They took a shuttle from the Valiant to the station, and Jake could not help but stare out the window. Harmony Station was massive, a sphere of metal and crystal that housed millions of beings from dozens of species. Inside, they walked through corridors filled with aliens. Some walked on legs like humans. Others floated or crawled or moved in ways that seemed to defy physics. All of them stopped to stare at the humans. Some looked curious. Others looked afraid. "I feel like I'm in a zoo," Ben muttered. "You kind of are," Emma replied quietly. "We're the new attraction. The scary predators from the Deathworld." They entered the council chamber, a huge circular room with seats arranged in tiers. The 12 council members sat at the top level, looking down at the floor where the humans stood. Admiral Parker stepped forward, calm and professional despite being surrounded by alien beings. "Admiral Ryan Parker," Shaltier said, the crystalline ambassador's voice echoing in the chamber. "You and your people have done what we thought impossible. You have defeated the Krathen Empire not once but twice. The Council wishes to understand how this is possible. Will you explain?" Parker nodded. "Dr. Emma Rodriguez will present our findings." Emma stepped forward, activating a holographic display. Images of Earth appeared, rotating slowly. She took a deep breath and began. "Earth is what you classify as a Class 12 death world. To understand what that means, you need to understand our evolution. 4 billion years ago, life began on Earth in conditions that were hostile to almost any form of existence. High radiation, toxic atmosphere, constant volcanic activity. But life adapted. It always adapts. The display showed images of Earth's history, ancient seas, dinosaurs, ice ages, and finally humans. Our world has gravity that is 50 to 200% higher than most inhabited planets in the Coalition. This means our bones are denser, our muscles stronger. Just standing upright on Earth is a workout for most species. Some council members shifted uncomfortably. This was information they had suspected, but hearing it confirmed was different. Emma continued. "Earth has extreme weather patterns. Hurricanes with winds that can destroy buildings. Tornadoes that can lift vehicles into the air. Floods, droughts, earthquakes, tsunamis. We evolved learning that nature could kill us at any moment. So we adapted to survive anything. The images showed disasters, cities flooded, forests burning, people struggling through blizzards. But the most important factor, Emma said, her voice growing stronger, is that Earth had predators? Lots of them. Humans evolved as both predator and prey. We learned to hunt, but we also learned to run. We developed something called persistence hunting. We would chase prey for hours, sometimes days, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. We learned that if you keep moving, keep trying, keep pushing forward, eventually you win. She pulled up a comparison chart showing human endurance versus various alien species. The difference was staggering. An average human could run for hours. Most coalition species could not run for more than a few minutes. We also developed something else, said. Problem solving under pressure. On Earth, if you cannot think fast, you die. If you cannot adapt to new threats, you die. If you cannot work together as a group, you die. These pressures shaped every aspect of human psychology. The council chamber was silent. Emma looked up at them. You asked how we defeated the Krathon. The answer is simple. They evolved on a gentle world. They are strong by galactic standards, but they never learned what it means to struggle. They never learned to keep fighting when injured. They never learned to push past fear and pain and exhaustion. We learned all those lessons because Earth taught us every single day of our existence. She closed the display and stepped back. For a long moment, no one spoke. Finally, a council member that looked like a floating jellyfish pulsed with light. This is troubling information, it said in a bubbling voice. If humans are this formidable, what is to stop you from becoming conquerors like the Krathon? Admiral Parker stepped forward again. Because Earth also taught us something else. It taught us cooperation. Humans could not survive alone, so we learned to work together. We formed families, tribes, communities, nations. We learned that protecting others makes us all stronger. That's why we came when the Valaxi called for help. Not because we wanted to conquer, but because protecting others is what we do. Shaltir's crystalline body glowed brighter. Your words give us hope, Admiral. But I must share troubling news. Our intelligence network has detected activity from 3 other aggressive empires. The Zarn Collective, the Nexus Hegemony, and the Torvan Dominion. They have all begun mobilizing their fleets. Jake felt his stomach sink. Why? Because of you, Shaltir said simply. They have been watching the coalition for years, waiting for the right moment to expand. They saw us as weak. Now they see Earth as a rising threat. They are moving now before you become strong enough to stop them. The implications hit like a punch. Humanity had tried to help, and instead they had triggered a galactic war. How many ships are we talking about? Parker asked. Thousands, another council member said grimly. Combined, these 3 empires control over 200 star systems. The coalition has the population and resources to match them, but we do not have the military capability. We are scientists, traders, explorers, not warriors. Parker looked at Jake, then at Emma and Ben. They all knew what this meant. Earth could not fight 3 empires alone. What if we trained coalition forces? Jake suggested. Shared our tactics, our strategies? It takes years to build a military, Shaltir said. We do not have years. Our intelligence suggests the attack will come within months. The meeting continued for hours. Plans were made, resources allocated, alliances discussed. When it finally ended, the human delegation returned to their shuttle, exhausted. We're in over our heads, Ben said quietly. Maybe, Parker agreed. But when has that ever stopped humans? Back on Earth, the situation was causing panic. The United Earth Council met in emergency session. Representatives from every nation argued about what to do. Some wanted to hide, to pull back and protect Earth first. Others wanted to fight, to prove that humanity would not abandon its allies. In the end, Earth's president made the call. A broadcast went out to every nation, every city, every home. My fellow humans, she said, her face appearing on screens across the world. We have learned that we are not alone in the universe. We have learned that there are those who need our help. And we have learned that helping them has put us at risk. Some may ask why we should fight for aliens we just met. I will tell you why. Because it is right. Because they asked for help and we answered. Because Earth has spent its entire history learning to survive against impossible odds, and we will not stop now. We are calling for volunteers. Anyone who can fly, fight, build, or think. We need you. Not to conquer the stars, but to protect them. The response was overwhelming. Millions volunteered. Earth's shipyards worked around the clock, building new vessels. Military bases trained recruits. Scientists developed new weapons based on coalition technology enhanced with human innovation. Meanwhile, Intelligence Officer Lieutenant Alex Carter, working on Harmony Station, made a disturbing discovery. He was analyzing communication intercepts from the 3 hostile empires when he noticed patterns. Admiral, he called Parker urgently. You need to see this. Parker came to Alex's station and looked at the data. These empires have been coordinating, Alex explained. This isn't just them all attacking at once by coincidence. They're working together. They have a joint plan. Show me. Alex pulled up star maps. Red markers showed enemy fleet positions, slowly moving toward coalition space from 3 different directions. They're hitting us simultaneously, Alex said. 3 massive attacks on 3 different fronts. The coalition forces will have to split up to defend, making them weaker. It's a smart strategy. Unless we're smarter, Parker said. He studied the map for a long time. Get me the coalition military command. And contact Earth, tell them to send everything they have. We are going to need every ship we can get. 2 weeks later, Jake stood on the Valiant's bridge, looking at the newest addition to Earth's fleet. The ship was called the Ranger, and it was different from any vessel humanity had built before. It combined Earth engineering with coalition technology, creating something truly unique. Faster, stronger, and more advanced than either culture could build alone. Impressive, Kate Walsh said, admiring the ship on the display. It better be, Jake replied. We are going to need every advantage we can get. The call came the next day. Enemy fleets had been detected entering coalition space. The war everyone feared was beginning. The Zarn Collective attacked from the galactic north. The Nexus hegemony hit from the east. The Torvan Dominion struck from the south. Each force numbered in the hundreds of ships, and standing between them and the innocent worlds of the coalition. The war exploded across 3 fronts simultaneously, and humanity found itself fighting battles that would have been unimaginable just months before. In the northern sector, Jake Morrison watched as the Zarn Collective fleet approached. The Zarn were insectoid creatures, their ships organic and alive, pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. They're beautiful, Kate Walsh said from her station. They're also trying to kill us, Jake reminded her. Battle stations. Prepare to engage. The Zarn attacked with swarm tactics, sending hundreds of small ships forward like a cloud of locusts. They moved in perfect synchronization, each ship connected to the others through some kind of hive mind. It was mesmerizing and terrifying. The human ships opened fire, but for every Zarn vessel they destroyed, 2 more took its place. The Valiant shook as enemy weapons struck its shields. Shields at 60%, Kate reported. These guys are not giving us any breathing room. Jake gritted his teeth. The Zarn strategy was simple, overwhelm the enemy with numbers. Against most species, it worked perfectly. But humans had learned something during Earth's world wars. When facing a swarm, you hit them where it hurts most. Target their command ships, Jake ordered. The big ones in the back. Ignore the small ones. But sir, the small ones are tearing us apart, his weapons officer protested. Trust me. Just do it. The Valiant and its sister ships focused their fire on the larger Zarn vessels lurking behind the swarm. These ships were the hive nodes, coordinating the attacks. When the first one exploded, something remarkable happened. The small ships near it went crazy, flying in random patterns, crashing into each other. Their hive mind connection broke, Jake said with satisfaction. Keep hitting the big ones. Break their network. In the eastern sector, the fight against the Nexus hegemony was completely different. The Nexus were machine beings, artificial intelligence that had long ago abandoned biological forms. Their ships were perfect geometric shapes, their movements calculated and precise. Commander Sophie Grant led the human forces in this sector, and she quickly realized that fighting machines required different thinking. The Nexus anticipated every logical move, countered every standard tactic. They were fighting like computers because they were computers. All ships, Sophie broadcast, stop following the manual. Start improvising. Do things that do not make sense. Confuse them. Her crew looked at her like she was crazy, but they obeyed. Human ships began flying in erratic patterns, making decisions that seemed random. The Nexus ships tried to predict their movements and failed. How do you predict chaos? One human destroyer, damaged and losing power, did something that made the Nexus pause in confusion. It rammed a Nexus cruiser head-on. The collision destroyed both ships, but the sacrifice allowed 3 other human vessels to slip past the enemy line. The Nexus had never encountered an enemy willing to trade one ship for tactical advantage. Their calculations did not account for self-sacrifice, but it was in the southern sector where the war became truly brutal. The Torvan Dominion was different from the other empires. They were humanoid, walking on 2 legs, with features that almost resembled humans except for their gray skin and solid black eyes. They were also the cruelest of the 3 empires. The Torvans did not just want to win, they wanted to dominate. When they conquered a world, they enslaved the population. And now, they were doing something that filled every human with rage. They were targeting civilian ships. Admiral Parker received the reports on his flagship Endeavor. Torvan forces had attacked a coalition refugee convoy, destroying ships filled with families fleeing the war. Thousands dead. Men, women, children, all killed for no strategic reason except to spread terror. Admiral, his communications officer said nervously, should I inform the fleet? Parker's jaw clenched. Yes, tell them everything, and prepare to change our strategy. The message went out. When the human forces learned what the Torvans had done, something changed. The professionalism, the restraint, the careful following of rules of engagement, all of it burned away. Replaced by something primal, Sergeant Ben Carter was leading Marines on a boarding operation when he heard the news. His squad had just captured a Torvan supply ship. The alien crew surrendered, expecting to be taken prisoner according to Galactic war conventions. Ben looked at the Torvan captain, who stood confidently despite being disarmed. You will treat us according to the Harmony Accords, the captain said. We are prisoners of war. The Harmony Accords say you do not target civilians, Ben replied, his voice cold as ice. You broke the rules first. The Torvan captain's confidence faltered. What are you going to do? We are going to put you in a cell, Ben said. And you are going to sit there thinking about what your people did. And you are going to pray to whatever gods you have that we do not become what you made us. Ben was not cruel, but he was angry. Every human was. The Torvans had thought killing civilians would break human morale. Instead, they woke something up, something that Earth's history knew well, the fury of protectors who had failed to protect. The human fleet stopped holding back. Ships that had been fighting defensively went on the offensive. Pilots like Chris Murphy flew missions that were technically suicidal and somehow survived through skill and sheer determination. Engineers like civilian technician Amy Brooks worked 20-hour shifts keeping damaged ships flying, refusing to let exhaustion stop them. I can sleep when the war is over, Amy said when someone tried to make her rest. Right now, people need me. On Harmony Station, Lieutenant Alex Carter worked with Coalition intelligence to coordinate the war effort. He discovered something that changed the entire picture. The 3 empires were not as unified as they pretended. The Zarn wanted resources. The Nexus wanted territory. The Torvans wanted slaves. They were cooperating, but they did not trust each other. We can exploit this, Alex told Admiral Parker through secure comm. If we can force one empire to commit more forces than the others, they will start arguing. Their alliance is fragile. Parker seized on this information. He ordered a massive push against the Nexus, throwing 2/3 of the human fleet at them. The Nexus called for support from the Zarn and Torvins. Neither responded quickly enough. They were too busy with their own battles. The plan worked. The Nexus forces, overwhelmed by the concentrated human attack, began retreating. But more importantly, the three empires started blaming each other for the failure, yet the war was far from over. The coalition worlds were suffering. Production centers were destroyed. Trade routes were cut. Planets were blockaded. The human forces were winning individual battles but losing the overall war of attrition. Earth simply did not have enough ships to be everywhere at once. Then something unexpected happened. The Krathan Empire, humanity's first enemy, sent a message. Commander Vexcor himself appeared on Admiral Parker's screen. "Human Admiral," Vexcor said, "I am authorized to propose a temporary alliance." Parker was suspicious. "Why would you help us?" "We are enemies." "Because," Vexcor replied, "we have observed your conduct in this war. You fight fiercely, but you show mercy to defeated foes. When you captured our ships, you treated our crews with respect. When you occupied Krathan colonies, you did not enslave the population. You are warriors, but you have honor. The Torvin Dominion has no honor. They are a stain on the galaxy. We would rather see you win than them." Parker considered this carefully. The Krathan were offering their fleet, their resources, their military experience. It could change everything. But could they be trusted? "If we accept this alliance," Parker said slowly, "there will be conditions. No attacks on coalition worlds. No slavery. No targeting civilians. You follow our rules or the alliance ends." Vexcor's scales rippled in what might have been a smile. "We accept your terms. Let us show the galaxy what happens when warriors with honor join forces." The alliance announcement shocked everyone. The Krathan Empire, which had started this entire conflict, was now fighting alongside humans and the coalition. Former enemies became unlikely partners. The tide of war began to shift. Krathan ships reinforced human positions. Krathan intelligence shared information about enemy movements. Krathan troops fought side by side with human marines, and both species learned to respect each other on one joint operation. Ben Carter's squad worked with a Krathan unit to retake a captured station. The Krathan warriors were impressed by human resilience, but Ben was impressed by Krathan discipline and strategy. "You are worthy opponents," the Krathan squad leader told Ben after the battle. "I am glad we are no longer enemies." "Same here," Ben replied, clasping the alien's scaled arm. "Let's make sure the bad guys regret making us team up." But victory was still distant. The three hostile empires might be arguing among themselves, but they still had massive fleets and resources. The Torvins, in particular, became more vicious as they lost ground. They started using weapons that the galaxy had banned centuries ago: biological weapons, planet killers, radiation bombs. When a Torvin ship deployed a bioweapon on a farming world, killing millions of innocent aliens, the human response was swift and terrible. Admiral Parker took personal command of a strike force and hunted down the responsible Torvin admiral. When they found him, trying to flee to safe space, Parker's fleet surrounded the ship. The combined fleet jumped into hostile territory like a spear thrust into the heart of enemy space. 140 ships, human and Krathan, appeared near the neutral station where the three empire leaders were meeting. But they were not alone. The empires had expected trouble and brought their own protection. Over 400 warships guarding the station on the Valiant's bridge. Jake Morrison stared at the sensor readouts and felt his mouth go dry. They were outnumbered nearly 3-1. This was suicide. "Admiral Parker is hailing all ships," Kate Walsh said. Parker's voice came through, calm and steady despite the impossible odds. "All personnel. I will not pretend this will be easy. We are outnumbered and outgunned. But we have something they do not have. We have each other. Human, Krathan, coalition, we stand together. Today we end this war. Today we show these empires that terror and cruelty have no place in this galaxy. All ships engage. The battle began with a violence that shocked even veteran warriors. The enemy fleet moved to surround the human and Krathan forces, trying to use their superior numbers. Admiral Parker had anticipated this. His fleet did not try to avoid the encirclement. Instead, they formed a wedge and drove straight toward the station. "They are trying to break through," the Zarnhive commander buzzed in confusion. "Do they not understand basic tactics?" "No," the Nexus fleet coordinator replied, calculations running through its processors. "They understand perfectly. They are sacrificing defensive positions for speed. They know they cannot win a long battle, so they are betting everything on reaching the station quickly." The human and Krathan ships pushed forward, weapons firing in all directions. Ships were hit, shields failed, hulls breached, but they did not stop. They could not stop. The Valiant took a direct hit that sent Jake flying from his chair. Alarms blared. The ship shuddered and tilted. "Damage report," Jake shouted, pulling himself back up. "Hull breach on deck 4, Kate called out. "Shields down to 20%. Port engine is offline. Can we still fly?" "Yes, sir, but not for long." "Then we fly for as long as we can." "All power to forward weapons. We are getting to that station." Around them, other ships were fighting their own desperate battles. The destroyer Guardian had lost half its weapons but kept firing with what remained. The cruiser Defender was venting atmosphere, but its crew refused to abandon ship. The Krathan dreadnought Retribution was surrounded by enemy vessels but broke through them like a battering ram. On the Marine Transport Ranger, Sergeant Ben Carter and his squad prepared for what everyone knew was likely a one-way mission. They were going to board the station and capture the Empire leaders. Simple plan, insane execution. "Listen up," Ben told his Marines as the ship shook from enemy fire. "We are about to make history. Some of us might not make it back. But those Empire leaders in there, they ordered the deaths of millions of innocent people. They thought they could terrorize the galaxy into submission. Today, we teach them that actions have consequences." "Are you with me?" the Marines roared their answer. Human and Krathan voices mixed together in a war cry that would have frightened ancient warriors on Earth. The Ranger broke through the enemy lines, taking massive damage. Its engines were failing. Its weapons were gone. But it had just enough momentum to reach the station. The ship crashed into the docking bay, tearing through the station's hull like a knife through paper. "Go, go, go!" Ben shouted. The Marines poured out of the damaged ship, immediately engaging station security forces. The fighting was close and brutal. Ben led from the front, his rifle barking as he moved through corridors filled with enemy soldiers. A Torvan commander tried to organize a defensive position. Ben and his squad went through them like a storm. The Torvans had trained for war, but they had trained on a world with comfortable gravity. Ben had trained on Earth, where every movement was a fight against physics elf. He was faster, stronger, and more determined. Meanwhile, in space, the battle reached its critical point. Admiral Parker's flagship Endeavour was heavily damaged but still fighting. The Admiral had moved the fleet into a position where the enemy ships were forced to be careful with their fire. They risked hitting the station if they missed. "Sir," a tactical officer reported, "the enemy is pulling back slightly. They do not want to damage the station." "Good," Parker said. "That gives our people inside a chance." All ships form a defensive sphere around the station. Nothing gets in or out. The human and Krathan forces reorganized, creating a barrier between the station and the enemy fleet. They were battered, bleeding down to 30% combat effectiveness. But they held the line. Inside the station, Ben's team fought their way to the central conference chamber. The 3 Empire leaders were there, along with their personal guards. The guards were elite soldiers, the best their empires had to offer. The fight was desperate. Ben took a plasma bolt to the shoulder and kept fighting. 2 of his Marines went down. A Krathan warrior lost an arm but used his remaining 3 to drag a wounded human to safety. They fought like demons, like monsters, like people who had absolutely nothing to lose. In the end, they won. The guards fell. The 3 Empire leaders stood surrounded, nowhere to run. The Torvan Emperor looked at Ben with his black eyes and laughed. You cannot kill us. We are protected by diplomatic immunity. The Harmony Accords, you follow rules, do you not? Ben stepped forward, bleeding from multiple wounds, his armor scorched and dented. The Harmony Accords protect leaders who follow them. You violated every rule in the book, you targeted civilians. You used banned weapons, you committed genocide. You have no protection here. Then kill me, the Torvan Emperor spat. Make me a martyr. My people will fight forever to avenge me. No, Ben said quietly, we are not going to kill you. We are going to do something worse. We are going to put you on trial. We are going to make you face the families of everyone you murdered. We are going to let the whole galaxy see exactly what kind of monsters you are. For the first time, fear showed in the Emperor's eyes. The capture of the 3 Empire leaders broke the enemy fleet's morale. When Admiral Parker broadcast the news, the hostile forces began to fragment. Some ships tried to rescue their leaders. Others fled. A few even surrendered, but the war was not over yet. Diehard loyalists in all 3 empires refused to accept the defeat. They launched one final coordinated assault, throwing everything they had left at the human and Krathan positions. Here they come, Jake warned his crew as sensors detected hundreds of ships jumping in. This was it. The final battle. The moment that would decide everything. The fleets collided in a chaos of weapons fire and explosions. Ships that had fought for weeks without rest gave everything they had left. The Valiant's port engine finally exploded, sending the ship spinning. Kate fought the controls, her hands flying over the interface. I cannot stabilize us, she said desperately. Then we fight spinning, Jake replied. Weapons, keep firing. If we are going down, we are taking some of them with us. But they did not go down. Because across the battlefield, something remarkable happened. The coalition species, the ones who had claimed they were not warriors, arrived with a fleet of their own. Scientists had armed their research vessels. Traders had converted cargo ships into carriers. Even the peaceful Valaxi, who had started this whole war, came with what few ships they could muster. Shaltir's voice broadcast across all frequencies. We are the Galactic Coalition. We are scientists and traders, artists and philosophers. We are not warriors by nature. But we have learned from the humans. We have learned that sometimes peace must be defended with force. We have learned that standing together is stronger than standing apart. And we have learned that we will not let bullies and tyrants rule the galaxy. All ships, engage the enemy. The reinforcements tipped the balance. The enemy fleet, already demoralized, began to break apart completely. Ship after ship surrendered or fled. Within an hour, the battle was over. The war was won. Jake sat in his damaged command chair, barely able to believe it. They had done it. Against impossible odds, outnumbered and outgunned, they had won. Sir, Kate said, tears running down her face, we are getting reports from all fronts. The enemy is surrendering everywhere. It is over. The war is over. The Valiant's crew erupted in cheers. Across the fleet, on every human and allied ship, people were crying, laughing, celebrating. They had survived. The aftermath of the war was complex. The 3 hostile empires were broken but not destroyed. New leaders emerged, ones who were willing to negotiate. The coalition expanded, incorporating former enemy, territories that chose peace over conquest. The war crimes trials were watched by billions across the galaxy. The 3 empire leaders stood before judges from multiple species and were forced to account for their actions. The evidence was overwhelming. The testimonies were heartbreaking. In the end, all 3 were found guilty and sentenced to spend the rest of their lives in prison, serving the families they had destroyed. But the most important changes were not political. They were cultural. The galaxy had learned that working together was stronger than fighting apart. Species that had never cooperated before began joint projects. The coalition became not just an alliance but a true community. And at the center of it all was humanity, the Deathworlders who had